Mayor Bibb.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, sir.
I need some warmer weather.
The warmer weather is coming.
Okay, good.
Our job gets a little bit harder as the seasons go on.
I bet.
We want to get winter, we want to get spring,
Yeah.
Which one is going to take the first pitch is what we're talking about here.
Good analogy for baseball season.
Yes, indeed. So climate change is a huge topic for everyone that lives and breathes on this earth. And so Channel 3 is tackling this topic head on, and we're launching it next week for Earth Week.
Yeah.
You, sir, are a vessel for the city of Cleveland and how we look at this issue, how we interact with this issue, how we curb this issue. Do you view climate as an important issue for the city of Cleveland?
Without a doubt. Cleveland, for decades, has been at the vanguard for major national and global conversations about climate change and really what I believe, climate justice. After our river caught on fire, it inspired the Clean Water Act. It inspired the creation of the EPA. And I believe as a city, we have a special moral obligation to lead the fight. And that's why during the transition, we embedded very clear tasks around climate justice in every job description in my cabinet. In the weeks and months ahead, I'll be hiring the first ever Chief of Sustainability and Climate Justice as part of my administration to ensure both internally, inside City Hall, but also externally, we're creating the right conditions to advance sustainability and climate justice all around the city and the region as well too.
This is a personal issue for you, sir, regarding climate change?
Absolutely. I grew up in a poor Black neighborhood in the Southeast Side. We didn't have a lot of trees growing up on my block. We had some good parks to go to, but they weren't well programmed, and in some cases they weren't really safe. We didn't have access to a good quality grocery store in my neighborhood. And I believe when you look at this conversation globally about climate change, we must do a better job of talking about the disparate impact that climate issues have on Black and brown communities. That's why the work we do at City Hall is so important.
I grew up in Mississippi. I'm a meteorologist. I am a person that appreciates nature. Nearly $1 million has been allocated for over 3,000 trees to be planted here in Northeast Ohio, and specifically that also includes Cleveland. How do you feel about tree planting, the benefits of tree planting for us on our health, on our children, on all of us that like to be outdoors?
Having access to a well thought out plan, tree canopy is not just a nice to have. I think it's a civil right. When I look at all the data, when it comes to air quality, when it comes to access to good quality parks, we see in Black and brown neighborhoods in the city high asthma rates, high rates of low air quality, and these are the neighborhoods that don't have a lot of well-planted trees. And so we must have a data-driven approach in terms of where we invest, in this $1 million investment, I believe, will truly go a long way.
Speaking of air quality, it's been stated that the city of Cleveland receives its power from one of the most populated or most critical coal plants in the country. How do you look at that issue, relying on coal for most of our power here in the city of Cleveland? And are you making plans to kind of curb or wean the city off of that?
Yes. It's a major issue that I campaigned around. The fact that Cleveland Public Power is getting its power source from the third largest carbon emitter in the United States, which is undermining our ability as a country to achieve the Paris climate goals. It's a major problem. And so we are working as we speak with our legal department to identify ways to potentially get out of this contract with AMP that really undermines our ability to really leverage Cleveland Public Power as an asset and a driver of the green economy in Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio. And it's critical that we can lead the way, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and going to solar and wind and hydro, I think is a key part of our city's economic future.
You've done a lot of traveling, sir, representing Cleveland on a national stage, on an international stage. I know you had the Glasgow Summit, and speaking of which, the Paris Climate Agreement. Is it your goal, or do you have a goal of allowing Cleveland and propelling Cleveland to be one of the most formidable cities when it comes to climate change, renewable resources on a national scale, on an international scale?
Absolutely. Just last month, I was appointed to be vice chair of the Environment and Resilience Standing Committee with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And that body is responsible for really helping to lead the policy agenda for mayors across the country around how we're going to move the nation to a more climate resilient future. And I want to make sure Cleveland is at the table leading and guiding those policy discussions.
How do you propose doing that?
Well, looking at our backyard for innovations to really show the nation how to get it done, whether it be on new and dynamic ways to leverage Lake Erie for the water innovation economy, whether it be propelling more community solar farms and communities of color. And then, if we can turn the page at Cleveland Public Power and lead that towards a more renewable energy future, those are all three concrete examples of how Cleveland can lead the way for the country.
Will this be a challenge, in your opinion, for one of America's most industrial cities? Will it be a big challenge? Will it be an uphill battle? How do you view that?
Well, I think nationally you're seeing a different paradigm shift in the conversation. The current war between Russia and Ukraine is really elevating the geopolitical consequences of our reliance on fossil fuels. You saw the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, call for a Marshall Plan around our energy future. And I think American cities and American mayors will have to lead the way, given all the dysfunction we're seeing in Washington, D.C. right now. And so it's important that we as cities find innovative ways to be more climate resilient to really make sure we can kind of get this right in the future.
Do you think the issue and your plans to tackle climate change is attainable in the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years? Is it something that we can see?
Yeah, pretty soon we're going to be introducing and I hope passing legislation around complete and green streets to ensure that we have climate resilient transit policies on our development projects across the city. We are working very quickly around making sure we have a true plan to modernize Cleveland Public Power. We talked earlier about planting more trees, particularly in communities of color. And in the future, I want to work with my cabinet and community leaders to create a separate parks department so we can ensure that we have well-programmed, safe, quality parks in every neighborhood across our city. And so will I change the climate overnight? Absolutely not. But I think we can lay a strong foundation for Cleveland's future so we can be a more resilient city that embraces climate justice.
Do you think the issue was made harder by the previous administration?
I believe that the prior administration laid a strong foundation for me to build on as mayor.
In what way?
Well, you look at all the great planning around the Cleveland Sustainability Conference that has been going on for over a decade, I believe, in Cleveland. We have a current department around sustainability right now as well, and so we are taking those assets and building the next vision around those key assets.
Some of your campaign initiatives included items such as the consent decree, police reform, crime. Where does climate change fit into that?
It's not a siloed thing. When you grow up in a neighborhood that doesn't have access to a good quality park, that doesn't have access to a good quality grocery store, that doesn't have access to high quality public transit, then you feel like opportunity is locked out and it's not within your reach. And that kind of lack of hope in many ways leads to crime. And so I truly believe that climate change and climate justice are foundational issues that build strong communities, that create strong people. And so every issue around climate change is interconnected to everything that we do to improve the built environment across our city.
Cleveland is a city of vast backgrounds, vast religions, cultures, languages, socioeconomic status. Is there something that everyday Americans can do within the city of Cleveland, regardless of their background, regardless of their social and economic status, to help our planet?
Plant some more trees, get involved in your neighborhood, hold your elected officials accountable around advancing climate justice and climate resiliency policies and issues. And I think really having hard, honest conversations about climate change are a key part of what every citizen can do to advance this issue moving forward.
You speak of holding elected officials accountable. There's been a video circulating or reports being circulated that trash collection and recycle collection was kind of intermingled, put in the same landfill. And you know, an everyday person would question, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, if this is happening, what's your take on that, sir?
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. As you know, it's a problem that we inherited when we took office on January 3rd. We are working around the clock as we speak right now to bring back curbside recycling. Later this spring, early summer, we'll be bringing back the opt-in recycling program to lay the foundation to ensure we can have a robust recycling effort in the city of Cleveland. But we have a long way to go, and education is a big part of making sure that we can truly recycle in our city like we see in other suburbs across Cuyahoga County.
You're hovering around the first 100 days, sir.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Where does the city currently stand on climate change and attacking this issue?
I believe we are laying a strong foundation to really be a national thought leader on climate change issues and climate justice, and I'm looking forward to continuing the hard work ahead.
Of course, we all know the benefits of recycling. Of course, we all know the benefits of making these changes in our everyday lives, some of which we have control of, some of which we do not have control of. Your Instagram account posted that over $100 million in public and private funds have been advocated for lead removal. And it also says it is our most urgent issue. Why?
You know, when I was knocking on doors, talking to voters last year, I met a community activist, Yvanka Hall, and she said that the lead crisis in Cleveland is public enemy #1. It took me a while to figure out what that meant. But what she was saying was, if you grow up in a home that has been poisoned by lead, and if you're a child, you're more likely to have cognitive brain disabilities and not show up well in the classroom. And there's so many downward consequences that occur. And so if we don't make sure that we can eradicate lead paint in this city, then everything we talk about from recycling to Cleveland Public Power doesn't mean anything. We got to get the basics right. That's why within weeks after taking office, we announced we were going to leverage $17 million of the American Rescue Plan dollars to support an effort to raise over $100 million to fully fund the Lead Safe Coalition lead endowment. We also hired a senior level lead strategist in my administration that's focused on breaking down silos across every department to make sure that City Hall is a key thought partner with our community organizations to eradicate lead. So we are using every lever we have inside City Hall to eradicate this crisis, and it must be eradicated in the near future.
Do you think we stand a good chance of meeting the 2023 goal of being fully funded?
I believe so. With that $100 million investment, it goes a long way.
It does.
Yeah.
So your administration also lists increasing frequency of public transit, expanding routes, prioritizing public parks, green spaces, and having smart parking meters set up to provide pilot-free or highly subsidized transit for low-income riders. On your website, you list these things. Where does the city currently stand on this?
Well, we're in the process right now of evaluating a vendor that will allow us to finally have smart parking meters in the city where you don't have to use quarters and nickels and dimes to pay for parking. I think residents and visitors would truly appreciate that. And then we're having really good conversations with RTA about more coordination between the city and RTA to make sure we have equitable public transit all across the community.